So the way it worked in the past is that they made very high earnings in China, and now they basically lose for the first time market share in China, and there's an immense price pressure. That means that China as an earnings pool is getting a lot smaller, which means you need to compensate that with cost cuts, and that's why or most of the Germans basically work on more intensive cost cutting also in Europe. And it could get worse, of course, if tariffs were increasing in the US.
So, Horst, I got to ask you, right? What is the not Plan B, but how are European autos playing defense then, right? I mean, their Chinese EVs are eating their lunch at home and also increasingly abroad, right? And they're getting tariffed to death by the US now.
I'm always saying if you have a Plan B, the Plan A isn't good. So therefore,
okay, what is Plan A then?
The Plan A is basically. Yeah, that's a good question. What is the Plan A? I mean, they can't do anything, right? They need to take the situation as it is. I think it becomes clear that, and Trump is saying that all the time, that he wants to raise the tariff. It's just a question how he will do that maybe. So it's maybe the question, does he net import against exports? In that case, companies like BMW and Mercedes, they wouldn't suffer that much because they have got intensive production in the US and also export a lot from US to Europe. For example, BMW, Mercedes, they do that. I think companies like Porsche, of course, which just import from Europe, they would be more affected. Have got, of course, also more price power, can maybe compensate some of the tariffs. But there's always, however you want to take it, there's a net effect. So in the end, we discuss which company has got a higher net effect and which company has got a lower net effect.
So, you know, it's interesting you mentioned Porsche, and I love Porsches, by the way. I wish I could afford one, right? But I saw a bit of news report recently which said that Porsche, its plan to, in terms of dealing with EVs, is not to deal with them at all. They're actually doubling down on ICE engine production. And obviously, they're famous for their flat six engines, right? Maybe a company like Porsche can do that. The other European autos probably cannot afford to do that.
Well, the question is on that front, maybe even the other companies can afford that, because maybe even the emission regulation is going to change in Europe. So that's another trend maybe set by Donald Trump, that he says emission regulation, take it a step back and maybe realize everything a step later. And in Europe, we maybe have got the same, right? So we have got now this European Action Plan, which Europe wants to present on the 5th of March. And then they want to come up with a comprehensive package on maybe BEV subsidies. That's more relevant, of course, for the mass market car makers, but maybe also with some alleviation of the emission targets. Yeah, and in 26, maybe then the target's also going to be moved by some extent, and then also the car makers can afford maybe to push less on the EVs. I think they can't do the same as Porsche probably, but nevertheless, they don't have to push anymore that much.